Hi, everybody. This is Christian Lembach from Coors, and you're listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have Chris Spencer of Unsane and Human Impact. Chris's fairly new band, Human Impact, has an excellent new LP coming out. It's called Gone Dark, and it's out October 4th on Ipecac Recordings. We talk all about that record. We talk all about Human Impact. And of course, we cover all things Unsane, Unsane's major label run, their videos, Chris surviving a somewhat random attack while on tour in Vienna back in the day. There's a lot of good stories in this episode. And Chris was just super interesting to talk to. That's coming up momentarily. But first, there's something very serious that I would like to discuss. Thousands and thousands of podcasts across the world suffer from a lack of Apple Podcast reviews, and I'm very sad to report that my podcast is one of them. We sit at 245 Apple Podcast reviews, and we can't seem to make it to 300, so I need your help to get there. If you have an iPhone, open up the podcast app, search The New Scene, and hit that 5-star button. Also, click that link that says write a review. You can rate 5 stars, and you can leave a review. We have to get to 300. Somehow, some way, we have to get there. And we can only do it together. Also, we have shirts for sale at Death Wish Inc. And follow us on every social media platform at New Scene Pod. And don't forget to support our partner, Iodine Recordings. Here is some news from Iodine. Love letter. Everyone wants something beautiful. The second pressing is available now. Get yours fast because it will sell out. And if you haven't heard this record, you really need to. My favorite track, Unhousing Projects. I Get Chills. I Get Feels. It's a great record. Candy Hearts, You Could Be Anyone is a new collection of B-sides and rarities from the beloved pop-punk band. They just premiered a new music video for their song, Everything. Go check it out. Also, Best X will be performing at the Mercury Lounge in Brooklyn on August 28th. That's Mariel from Candy Hearts. The Iron Roses have 2 dates coming up with the Dead Kennedys. That's September 11th at the Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia, and September 12th at Vinyl Music Hall in Pensacola, Florida. Piebald and Hot Rod Circuit are playing October 10th in Pomona at the Glass House and October 12th in LA at the Echoplex. Sign up for the Iodine newsletter. You'll find out about everything first. You can sign up at iodinerecordings.com and make sure you follow the label on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. And don't forget to support our sponsor for the month of August, Death Wish Inc. You know them. You should know them. You should love them. You really should. It's a great label, home to an incredible roster of bands, The Hope Conspiracy, Bitter End, Gouge Away, Frail Body, Deaf Heaven, Loma Prieta, the list goes on and on. State Faults, Children of the Moon, the new LP is out right now, and you really want to hear this thing. I love this record. They're on tour with Pianos Become the Teeth this fall. You can listen now on your streaming service of choice. You can get tickets for the tour. There's more information at statefaults.com. And the new self-titled LP from Chastity comes out September 13th. You can listen to a new single from the record right now. It's called Summer All Over Again, and it's great. They're on tour with Fucked Up this September. Listen now and buy tickets at chastitysongs.com. Don't forget the Death Wish vinyl blowout sale is going on right now. $3 7 inches, $10 LPs, and $15 2X LPs. Hundreds of records at very low prices from Death Wish Inc. and a ton of other great labels. Eye for an Eye just put out Omega Drone / Who. That's both LPs remastered by Alex Garcia Rivera at Mystic Valley Studio, and they're available on this one beautiful LP reissue. Don't forget to check out Artificial Bouquet by Frail Body. Don't forget to check out Light of Death by Umbra Vitae. I was just listening to Anti-Spirit Machine again today. That is the jam. Head to Deathwish Inc. to pick up some merch. Check out their staff picks playlist on Spotify. And make sure you follow them on Instagram at Deathwish Inc. All right, so make sure you check back in with me in segment 3. There's a lot to discuss, and we will do that. But right now, we are going to speak to Chris Spencer of Unsane and Human Impact. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Chris Spencer. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Keith. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. And Chris, it's excellent to have you here because you've done so much over the years. Unsane, Human Impact. We have the new Human Impact record coming out. Chalan, UXO. You've done it all. And we're going to talk about most of it, maybe even all of it. But Chris, first,
Wow.
I want to ask you a question.
What's that?
How are you doing today?
I'm really good. Really good. The new Human Impact single came out today on Ipecac. So it's kind of cool to see your stuff come out, you know?
Release days and announcement days are the best, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess, it depends, So you could get you could have a bunch of people writing like, this sucks, and then you kind of spend the whole day going like, God damn, what did I do? So.
Has that happened to you?
No, not really.
Good. Because I don't know, because I know artists, they'll have like a beloved record or a critically panned record or whatever, but I'm glad that there hasn't really been that situation for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you get some people, I mean, what I do is not for everyone, so I would totally understand if somebody was like, this is not good, this sucks, but then they're like into the Smiths, you know what I mean? So who knows, you never... You never know.
Yeah, you have to take it in context, like the type of music you write and the world you're involved in. Like there's an audience for that, and it's a good audience, and they're locked into that whole thing. So if someone says that it completely sucks, you're right. They probably listen to the Smiths or pop music, or something, and they just
really mellow.
They just don't understand.
Yeah, they're not. They're just. It's not their cup of tea.
Where do you live these days?
Northern California.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Have you been there? Now, I know that you moved there around 2000. Have you been there since then, or have you moved around to other places?
Yeah, no, I've been here. I've been here the whole time since sort of late pandemic era. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I love living out in the redwoods near the ocean. So, I kind of, during the pandemic, some stuff opened up and just found a cool place. So
where? Like
2 hours north of San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, in the redwoods.
I like it up there a lot. If I had to choose anywhere else to live, I would choose San Francisco.
Yeah, I was thinking about it during the pandemic. I don't really want to go. My brother became sort of a super right winger. I don't know. And he just was angry at everybody. And I had a place out on a piece of land with him. And I was like, okay, I got to get out of here. So I was trying to think of places to go, and I scored an apartment in my friend's building in Brooklyn. So I was there for a while. I thought about New Orleans, just different places. And then I came up here to see our manager actually. And I was like, oh my God, it's fucking awesome up there, so started looking for a place and eventually found one.
What's your setup up there? Are you married? Any kids, partner, anything like that?
I got a girl. It's about
Nice.
it. No kids, no wife,
Have you ever wanted to get married or have kids?
I mean, I guess so, kind of, but my lifestyle is not really conducive to that kind of behavior. I mean, I really can't even have a dog, man. I really want a dog. And it's like, what am I going to do? Have, my girl take care of it for 2 months while I'm out on tour or traveling, or, you know what I mean? I travel too much to really, stay at home that consistently.
Yeah, you're out there a lot, and my schedule can be pretty unpredictable too. So it would be cool to have a cat, I think, but I don't. I would just be constantly trying to find someone to look after it, and that's too much pressure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know a dog, same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe one day.
Yeah.
So, did you grow up in New York City?
No, I grew up in Rochester, upstate.
Yeah.
And then when I was like 12, my mother moved to San Francisco, and I lived in San Francisco for a few years. And then I got out of high school at 17 and immediately just headed to New York.
So you're in high school in San Francisco.
Yep. Going to all kinds of punk rock shows.
Ah, okay. Is that where you discovered all that stuff?
Kind of. Yeah, I guess so. My older brother turned me onto a lot of shit, really early on.
What bands grabbed you in the world of punk, and like what kind of shows were you going to see out?
I started at the beginning, with like Ramones and Cramps and shit like that. Obviously Clash, Pistols, that kind of shit. And then I at one point went with a friend of mine. I was a pretty young kid, 12, I think it was 12, but I went to a giant Coliseum show and saw Aerosmith. And they were really actually good. It was actually during a really kind of volatile period in their career, but it was so detached. You were in this giant stadium kind of hanging out, watching the show. And then I kind of was really disappointed in how ginormous, the rock scene was at that time. I started to go in to see bands like Flipper and Dead Kennedys and Black Flag and stuff like that in San Francisco. I saw Flipper a bunch of times at just like keg parties and shit, where you're actually, you're actually hanging out with the guys are there. They're older, obviously, than me at that time, but you're kind of walking around and the guys are around in the room with you. It's kind of been like Melvins. If you go see the Melvins, generally, I mean, in the big places, maybe not, and probably not. But if you see them in a smaller club, you'll probably see Buzz hanging out, walking around, because who wants to stay in a little tiny green room in the back all night? You know what I mean? You kind of want to go out and hang out and walk around, So it's way more personal, and you can actually like, if you're really into someone's band, you can actually go up to them and say hi,
Yeah, that's a big appeal of this music for me too. I went to one big concert and then quickly I discovered the local hardcore scene. And I was like, wait, all my friends are in cool bands. The band's right in front of me. I'm almost getting killed.
Yeah, you're right there at the edge of the stage, Yeah, it's great. It's a much better way to see a rock show,
Yeah. So you're 17 and you come back to New York City.
Yes, sir.
Do you come back by yourself? How do you do it?
Yeah, I just came back by myself. I actually packed up some crates of amps and brought them back.
So you were already playing at that point?
Brought them to New York, not back. I was in bands in San Francisco and stuff. It's kind of like what you're talking about, like me and my friends were like, oh man, these guys are great. Like Flipper really was key early on in that they really sort of demonstrated that anybody could do it. even with a really bad attitude, you could do it. So, me and my friends were doing shit early on, and so I had already started writing some stuff. Like early on, me and my friends would just, like from when I first got to San Francisco at 12, we would play in my friends' basements and stuff. We had kind of this whole scene, multiple different guys built like little rehearsal spaces in their basement. And we would all hang out and we would skateboard a lot and just kind of hang and play music. And then once we started going to these punk shows, then we started realizing, hey, we can get out. And I never wanted to be a vocalist in a band. I wanted to just play guitar, but with my friends, nobody wanted to sing. I was the only guy who wanted to sing. And I remember saying to them like, hey man, if one of us sings, we could play a show, we can actually get out there and do shit, instead of just hanging in the basement being instrumental, and nobody wanted to sing. So I had to give it a shot.
And you've been doing it ever since.
Yes, sir. I sure have.
That's funny. That happens a lot where it's just like no one wants to do it. So somebody steps up and then they're the singer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's because I don't know. It just seems like guys that potentially, even if you can find the guy who just wants to be the singer, he's probably such a narcissist and so like egocentric that he's going to be hard to deal with.
Exactly.
Exactly. Much better to have like your bass playing friend to learn to sing. You know what I mean? Or you know what I'm saying? Like somebody's one of the guys. Because it rarely happens where somebody's like, yeah, I'm a singer, and they can also write songs and do all the shit, all the other stuff that goes with a band,
Right. Because I'm thinking about like the early days, because a lot of people will be like, oh, I'll sing, but they can't sing and they can't write.
Yeah. I mean, oh, Yeah, it's horrible. I've actually dealt with that where it was like the guy's like, "Yeah, I want to be the singer," but then he sings, and you're like, "Oh my god!" You're like, your pitch is just so off. You're so sharp on everything. Like it's just like, "Oh my god, how did this happen?" And then as usual, anytime you don't play with someone, they're really people get really, butt hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want to play music with them, which it's not a good scene. Better to really scope it at the beginning and make sure it's good before you hit it.
Exactly. I understand how that works now because musicians scope out under other musicians, and I think they get a good idea of who will work with who. Because that's the thing about music is like it's like an intimate thing, and there's like a very clear yes or no, right? Because I've done tryouts and stuff where they're just like no.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I wasn't good enough. There's like no disguising it. So it can hurt.
I don't know if that's the thing. I don't know if it's that you're not good enough, but maybe you're stylistically just so different that they're not into it,
There's that too.
Yeah. So, it could be, you could be a big Smiths fan and fucking, and want to be Morrissey or something.
Morrissey again.
I'm sorry. It's my joke of the day here.
No, it's funny because I was just talking about him yesterday. I was at a show and we were talking about like bad interactions we had with musicians when we met them.
Yeah.
And my friend said he met Morrissey, but he was like super nice. And I was like, see, that surprises me because I would expect him to not be super nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never met him personally. Maybe, who knows? I'm just, I just say that because to me, that's very opposite end of the spectrum musically from what I do or most bands in my scene would do,
Exactly. Same here.
Overly sensitive and very singy,
So you go back to New York City at 17.
Yeah.
And this is like late 80s, early 90s New York City?
Late 80s or mid 80s.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where did you go? Who did you stay with?
Well, at first I had this friend of mine, Ben, who lived on 6th Avenue. I hung at his place for a long time, and then I started going to school. I went to Sarah Lawrence for a while and then left there pretty quick and went to NYU Film School. So I was studying cinematography in film school there for quite a while.
Oh, okay. And at Sarah Lawrence, that's where you met the initial lineup of Unsane.
That's where I met Pete and Charlie. Yes.
Right. So, what was your life like at that point? I mean, did you like want to become a filmmaker? Were you working on that? Did you like just want to tour full time? Like, what did you envision for yourself?
That was a real crossroads in life. I had been studying cinematography for a long time with this guy Beta Bodka, this Czech guy, who was really cool and very famous. And he was sort of grooming me as his sort of, I guess, potential protege type. But I was also, me and Pete and Charlie we got a practice space with John Spencer and Cop Shoot Cop and stuff. So we were all sharing a practice space. So we started playing shows, Pyramid, CBGBs, Lismar Lounge, ABC No Rio. We were starting to play a lot of shows, as much as you probably can before you're established. Like once you get established, you can't really play more than once a month. But so we were playing a lot of shows. I was also in film school. I was getting out, and my teacher, Beta, told me, hey, there's a job at this massive 70 millimeter Panavision rental house in Midtown that I've got you a spot if you want to go and be assistant, DP or something, or actually initially work at the rental house, and then that's how you get your way into all the movies, because you're the guy who knows how to fix the camera. And you have to be on a lot of these shoots. So then we had just started playing a lot of shows, and I had managed to buy this crappy ass van with no insulation, just a metal shell. But we had just built a loft in it. And we had just started working with this guy who I still work with today, Todd Cote. And we were the first band he ever booked, but he was getting us a shit ton of shows. He was getting us shows real fucking heavy, hardcore stupidity crap, like Canada in February. You know what I mean? With no insulation in the van. We're all in the van in our like mummy sleeping bags all day. frozen tundra type shit. But so I had a chance to go into, cinematography, but I actually chose to get in the van with the guys. I'd been to that rental house a bunch, and I actually knew people there and stuff, and they knew me from doing shit. But no, I turned the job down, even though it was like a super coveted position to get. I turned it down and got in the van with the guys.
So the passion was with music.
Yeah, and hanging with my friends, and I just wanted to see I was really shocked that anyone would like the music we made, honestly. I mean, me and Pete were like cab drivers out in Queens, real drug problems, just our lives were pretty shitty and crazy, and New York was a fucking crazy lawless place at that time. So to me, to get out of New York and get in a van, I was surprised people were even into what we did. So it was kind of a cool thing. I was like, wow, man, let's see how far this will go.
You actually drove a cab out in Queens.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now doing that in New York City in the mid 80s, that must have been quite an adventure.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah, I would drive people to the projects out in Jamaica, Queens, to buy drugs and shit, and be sitting in a cab. I'm like the one white dude for fucking miles, sitting there with all these guys hanging out around me. They know I got money in the car. It was hairy, but nothing really ever happened. So whatever. I mean,
nothing happened.
No, never. The one time this drunk lady tried to climb up in the front seat to like sexually harass me. But other than that, no, nothing happened.
Wow. So you mentioned, like having a drug problem. Do you still manage to hold the job and the band together and get things done despite that?
Yes, totally. I had a job at one point. I mean, I just did shitty minimal work, just stuff to keep me going and pay my rent. And I also lived in this squat on 13th Street, so I didn't pay much money. You know what I mean? If I couldn't pay, the guy was cool with it too. It just was like. But I worked at this place, Life Cafe, that on 10th Street, 10th and B, and I would deliver food. But then I also knew where to get drugs, so I would go get shit, and then I would have it on me, and when people ordered from me, then I would come to their house and they could buy drugs off me.
Oh, nice side business.
Yeah. Side hustle. Yeah.
And the Alphabet City at that time, very easy to get drugs anywhere.
Yeah, all over the place. There were like 6 to 8 different spots you could hit. And I was on a bike doing delivery, so I could just swing by, whatever. Yeah, it was a pretty hairy place back then.
Right. Yeah, well, plus when you're young, you have the constitution to just like really accomplish anything. Because I had a massive drug problem over the years, but I would still be in a band and hold it together for a while. I would still hold down a job and like get promoted. Like I could get shit done, and until I couldn't one day.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's kind of. With me. We ended up touring so much. Eventually, there just is no way to have a drug habit because you're in a different town every night and you can't bring that much with you.
No. And even if you do, you end up doing it all. Like there was times where I was like, okay, I'm going to bring double the amount and that's going to get me through the week. And I would always run out on Thursday, no matter what. And then on Friday,
you can never bring
fucked.
Enough is what you're saying. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And then you're like, holy fuck, I'm in South Dakota. Where am I going to go? And we've got a show today, and then tomorrow, who knows, who knows, Des Moines or so, it's like, what the fuck? There's no way I'm getting anything. And then I was just repeatedly sick, like so many times, and then get home and back to the same shit. So eventually we just, at one point, after Charlie died, that's when I really had to give it some serious thought, obviously, the drug thing. Because Charlie was one of my best friends. And me and him shared an apartment at that time when he died. But I was actually out of town. But we just, Unsane at one point toured like fucking over 315 shows for 4 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just was living in the van, in hotels with my friends, and just playing basically 6 nights a week, pretty much. I mean, you got a week off in between tours or something, but that's about it.
That sounds like a pretty good time.
Yeah, it was cool. It was good. You know, it has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've played just sick as a fucking dog, like where I feel like I'm gonna die, but you gotta play anyway. You know, like I've played Vegas in long johns. Because I was so sick. I just had this crazy flu and just kind of walked a block. Like the guys got me a hotel, thank God. Our tour manager, which was really just our friend. But we got a hotel like a block away from the venue. You know what I mean? So I could just hole up until like 20 minutes before I have to play, come down, you know, basically die for an hour and go back up and go back to sleep. You know, so you know, there's normal things in life that you wouldn't think would, you know, you don't think that things are going to get fucked up, but they inevitably do. Something happens, or you know, it's just different stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've done that too. Like it was my first show with this band, and I hadn't been in a band in years, so there's that pressure. But I was in withdrawal, so I was sick. And I was like wearing like 3 layers on stage, and I hadn't slept, but I got through the show, and then I went home and I was just like, yes, I did it. But now, when I think back to that now, I'm like, how the hell did I do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And actually it's funny because I've seen pictures of me playing in the fucking heat in long johns and it doesn't look weird. Like somehow it just looks like it's cold weather. You know what I mean? It
could just be a look.
Yeah, I guess. I don't, you know, I mean, you could be playing in the freezing cold, but yeah, I'm with you. I totally hear that. What did the guys in the band think of your show after? Did you ask them how it went?
It seemed like people thought it was okay.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I'm always too critical of what I do, but you know, no one said like that sucked or you need to do this or that. So I think it was fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah. I would, if when shit like that happens, I would definitely be to the guys like, hey, what the fuck? How did that go? You know,
yeah.
I felt like I was going to die. How'd it go? You
know. What is your relationship with alcohol and drugs? Like, sadly, when Charlie died, he was only like 25, right?
26, I think.
Yeah. That's just really unfortunate. I mean, you said you knew him a long time too, right?
Yeah. From when I first got to New York, back to New York, you know, 17 or no, maybe 18. I guess the next year I met him.
Okay. So like, I mean, did you have to like stop everything completely or did you just like stay away from heavy stuff? Like what did you end up doing? I'm curious.
Well, the touring, I mean, this is kind of bad. The touring, I eventually just had to fucking admit to myself that there's no doing dope.
Right.
So then I started, which is normal of a lot of bands, just drinking like a fish, you know, I was, you know, so I did that for a long time, and definitely have had problems with alcohol because I don't really do any other drugs, you know, nothing crazy. Yeah, so drinking, and then I quit drinking for about 4 years. Now I drink every once in a while, but try not to drink that much. So yeah, it kind of, you know, as I've gotten older, it kind of tapers off.
Right. Yeah. I tried like all different combinations of stuff to be able to, because I wanted to do something. I wanted to at least be able to drink. But whenever I drank, I would just go back to the heaviest stuff and things would get really out of control. So I had to give it all up.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Because when you lose all judgment when you get drunk. So
yeah, I'm one of those classic people. If I do one thing, I do it all.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean,
it's all connected.
I'm kind of on the same page, but at the same time, being out in the redwoods, you're not copping anything, you know. You know what I mean? So environmentally, I think I've sort of taken care of that problem to a certain extent, you know.
You'd have to drive all the way down to San Fran, which I've done.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Oh, really? Yeah, but after a few beers, I'm not driving to San Francisco.
No, not now.
No, you know.
So I read the Unsane debut, the self-titled, which came out in 1991. Now, there's a song called Exterminator, which is about you woke up to being sprayed in the face with chemicals by an exterminator.
Yeah,
is this true?
Yeah, it is. I was crashed. I had been out all night with friends and doing all kinds of shit, and me and my girlfriend had this little tiny apartment And the bed was in the living room. You could fold it up and kind of make a couch out of it. But so we left it open all the time. But so she kind of casually said, "Oh, there's a guy coming by, blah, blah, blah." She left, but she went to work. And I was just in a coma, and the guy had come in, and I woke up to the nozzle of an exterminator's spray, just right next to my face, all around the bed. And then I just had these he split, and I just fell back asleep. I had these crazy ass dreams, and just really weird, weird shit.
Because I read that and I was like, that's so crazy. Wow, New York must have been insane. But then I realized the same thing happened to me, sort of. I was living in this apartment that had a lot of roaches, and I kept bugging the landlord to do something. So he bought one of those fogger cans, you get at the store.
Yeah, of course.
And he's like, all right, I got this. And then he puts it in the room and sets it off. And he's like, all right, see ya. But he didn't even tell me hey, make sure you're not in here.
Yeah.
Hey,
you might want to leave.
Be in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm standing there, and then I'm like, wait, I'm not supposed to be in here. So I ran out of there, and put on a pair of shoes. It was
Yeah, see, I was asleep when he hit me, and then I was kind of already, and then once he dosed me, then I was kind of lying there fucked up. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, this shit is, I was already kind of in bad shape. Let's just say that, I needed to sleep.
Yeah.
But getting sprayed in the face with pesticide is not the best thing for anyone.
What was it like playing shows in the early days? What kind of bands were around? I've seen Helmet mentioned, I've seen Prong mentioned, I've seen Surgery mentioned, other bands, your contemporaries. What kind of shows were you playing? What kind of people were around? Were they receptive to what you were doing?
Yeah, totally. It was actually a really good scene in Lower East Side or Alphabet City in New York. Like I said, we shared a practice space with John Spencer, Pussy Galore, and Cop Shoot Cop, and a band called Railroad Jerk. And they were from the, we all rehearsed in the same place, but then there were also the Lismar Lounge and the Pyramid Club, and obviously CBGB's. ABC No Rio. I'm trying to think if I'm missing it. Brownies, I think. I'm not sure if it had a different name, I think, at the time. But there was a ton of clubs, around the area at that time. And we would this guy, Tom Sergal, would do, I think it was Saturday Night Fever or something like that. He had the Pyramid Club. So, even some bands would come in, like Mudhoney or Nirvana or something, would come in from out of town and kind of play the Pyramid or stuff like that. And we played with Mudhoney. They borrowed our shit. But Charlie's drum kit was so shitty that Mark Arm tried to stand on the kick drum and almost crushed it. But, so it was kind of this really cool scene. It was this whole, 20 block radius where you see your friends not every day, but all the time. And you go to all these shows all the time. I would just go. I knew everybody at CB's, so I would the sound guys. Hilly was good, really good, not a great friend, but he was. I knew him pretty well. So I could just go to CB's and just hang out. I could just walk in and be, hey guys, how's it going? And, and not pay a cover and just kind of chill out and watch whatever. So there were always live shows to go see. Either your friends were playing them or some band from out of town, or maybe it's a new local band or, whatever, just starting out. So it was really cool, man. There was a lot of shit to go see and play and open spots for us too, we could get on shows too, so that, although all the bands sounded to me very different, I see now in retrospect, there was a certain similarity in that it just was really noisy. Let's just say that, really raw and noisy and just kind of a cool local scene.
I like that. Yeah, it's still here now. I live in New York City. I've been here since 2012.
Oh, wow.
But the whole music scene got pushed mostly to Bushwick. So it feels like a lot of that is still going on there.
Huh. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, when during the pandemic, my friend's place is in Bushwick. So it was kind of cool to be in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it is cool. It's like how I imagine old Manhattan to be. There's just warehouses everywhere, and there's empty spaces, but there's also a really good music scene. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it is way outside of Manhattan, though.
Yeah, yeah.
It is way the fuck out there. So, I mean, I never Vinny or the drummer from the a second drummer in Unsane. His place, he lived out in Ridgewood, and I used to ride my bike out there from Manhattan, and I never imagined anybody would live out there and, consider it New York City. Like, because it's a long way out there. And now Ridgewood is fucking blowing, it's blown up with all these crazy college kids and all. It's just this huge scene.
Pretty much everywhere, because you get priced out of everywhere. So people will get pushed anywhere. Staten Island, forget about it.
Really? The people are living in Staten Island?
There are still people living in Staten Island. I can't believe it either.
I mean, I knew guys from Staten Island, but they would just come into the city, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a scene in Staten Island. It's kind of like, I mean, I've known people for a long time who moved up to the Bronx, which I'm not sure, but it seems like now that would kind of be a hotbed.
Yeah. Yeah, like pretty much anywhere is. I think the only place I haven't heard of a bunch of people moving is like East New York.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense.
So Unsane continues on strong. We have Total Destruction in 1992.
Yeah, Total Destruction. That was after Charlie died. And that was the first record with Vinny and Pete. Pete on bass and Vinny on drums. So that was Vinny's first record, which to me was a very transitional period. The musically, me and Pete were still on a similar page, but the drumming had changed so much that to me, it didn't seem like we had really found our spot yet. I think by the time we get to Scattered, sorry to jump ahead, but you get a couple record or write another record down or something, and then we really had it dialed in.
What was it that changed?
Charlie died. It's hard to laugh.
No, I just meant like
just Vinny stylistically is way different.
Yeah,
he's like really punch press. Charlie was like rolls all over the place, like
yeah.
It's just a different style. Vinny keeps it simple and powerful, and Charlie, while powerful, he was a maniac. It was awesome.
Right, but from Total Destruction to Scattered, did Vinny get more locked in, or?
Yeah, I think we all did. Well, like I said, at that time we were starting to tour so much, that yes, of course. By the time we got Scattered, then and also Dave joined. So, once Dave got in the band, then Dave is a little more mathy than Pete. Pete was kind of just sort of straight ahead. Dave will do shit in like 13, you know what I mean? Which is not a problem for me, but it adds a whole nother thing to everything, but Scattered, me and Dave really wrote a lot of Scattered with the girls from 7 Year Bitch in Seattle. Like,
oh yeah?
Yeah, we were hanging out there and using their practice space to write songs. So I was dating the drummer, Valerie. And, it was fun hanging out in Seattle at that time. So we kind of hung out there to just write a record. And then Vinny came up after about a month.
Scattered, Smothered, and Covered, named after how you get your hash browns at Waffle House.
Yes. And also kind of the possible MO of a serial killer,
I remember reading that, and I was very appreciative because, listen, Waffle House is the best. Would you still eat there? Do you?
Yeah, of course. What do you mean?
All right, good.
Yeah, what the fuck? Yes.
I was hoping you weren't going to be like, no, I can't eat that anymore.
I mean, we do refer to it as Awful House, but but
it's so good.
It is kind of so good. I know. It's a guilty pleasure, Sort of like American cheese. It's one of those things that is not good for you, but you kind of can't help it. Or I can't anyway.
I read you were thinking of calling the follow-up Chopped, Chunked, and Diced.
Yeah.
Is that true?
No. I mean, that may have come up in conversation. I believe it did quite a few times. But no, that was us just joking around,
Yeah. It is funny that you ended up on Matador / Atlantic because Unsane, it's just not a band you would picture with a major label association because intense cover art, intense music, right? Doesn't sound like a lot of the others. Well, it sounds like some stuff going on, but it really stands on its own.
Yeah, we were not happy about that one, honestly.
Because it was like, that's what I wanted to ask about. Like, I guess it happened somewhat unexpectedly because of that Matador Atlantic deal or something.
Totally. I think we were somewhere in the Midwest in the freezing cold and calling people on a payphone, management and the guys from Matador and stuff. And Charlie at one point got off the phone and was like, "Hey, Matador is getting bought out by Atlantic." And I was like, "Oh my God, this fucking sucks. Like, what? We don't want to deal with that fucking bullshit." Like Surgery dealt with that. So those guys were really good friends of mine. Hung out with those guys all the time, just all the time. But they signed a deal. I think, what was it? Interscope, I think it was Interscope. I'm not sure, but they got some major label deal around that time. And they signed for like 3 records. They made one and then it didn't do well. So then they get totally screwed by the label. The label says, "Oh, okay, we're going to, put you on hold for a little bit." And after that one, because at the time Nirvana was starting to come up and everything was blowing up for like indie bands. So they were just, all these major labels were just throwing everything at the wall. And Unsane, I don't think is really a candidate for that. And so I guess the guys from Surgery thought that they were ready, like I remember when they got a big check, at the beginning, and they were just raging at the parties around town, having the best time ever. But then they owe them 2 more records and the label won't promote you anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, oh, I mean, the best you could do, I guess, was get some, AmRep to fucking buy out whatever label, the big label you're on, which is not going to happen. You know what I mean? So they kind of put you in a really bad situation if you don't do well, so.
Yeah, it's just a loan, but you don't realize that at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. You owe them that money. And if you don't sell that many records, then you're in debt.
Right.
So fuck that. I'd rather deal with Hazelmeyer, and get a really good royalty rate and on a handshake, and you just do it at minimal expense, and whatever you sell, you get your 18%, which was great because at the time it was like 11% on a major label. And everything's, just done with a handshake and totally good, all good, and you just tour like hell. You get your tour money, you sell records, you get your percentage of that, and AmRep does well too. Nobody's losing money.
Did you, how do you feel about your experience there? I think there was a video you had that got banned, but you also had a video that did pretty good, right? So like, did you have a lot of problems with Atlantic, or how was your overall experience?
Oh, no. I mean, Vinny really was kind of liking it. But I was not I didn't like it at all. And me and Pete were definitely not into it together. So they wanted a video for the record and, blah, blah, blah. And then we were like, what is the most unacceptable song we can give them as a video? So we decided on Body Bomb. For obvious reasons, this is not going to be a hit. And we had our friend Nats, a guy from Cops Who Cop, be in it. And in the video, he like straps a bomb on his body and blows up the World Trade Center.
Oh my God.
And it's shot by Richard Kern. So it's shot really grainy, Super 8 shit. And then has all kinds of stock footage of war and all kinds of crazy crap, and us playing in Martin BC's basement, at BC Studios. But we knew it was, whatever. So then they actually tried to send it to MTV. They did send it to MTV, and the response was, "Don't like the band, don't like the video, period." Oh. And that was it. That was all they wrote. It was really funny. We were like so happy about that. So then we were able to get off Atlantic and go with AmRep, which was obviously the better choice at that point.
That is a very good home for you guys.
Oh yeah, totally. We had wanted to be on AmRep for quite a while. We just got snapped up by Matador when they first, the Matador was just starting out. They didn't really know what direction they were going in. I think at the very beginning, they were just kind of seeing New York bands that they liked and grabbing them if they thought they could do something with it.
Right, because I only know the modern Matador. So I was like, Matador? Oh, wait, isn't like Interpol on that label? So yeah,
Yeah, I know.
they started out differently.
Yeah, and like with the Atlantic thing and shit, they got big. They got big quick. They were, it's sort of the New York Sub Pop maybe or something. Maybe not quite, but
That's a good comparison, actually.
yeah. Well, I mean, at the time, that's what it seemed like. You know what I mean? Because both Sub Pop and Matador were both like really underground, local type labels.
Right. Well, the video for Scrape did pretty well, right? And
Yeah.
we came in way under budget.
Yeah. Well, I just asked my friend Thomas Campbell. He was working at Transworld, I think, at the time. And I just asked him if he could. We were just sitting around smoking weed or something. And I was just like, hey, man, you think you could make a video of just every guy hurting themselves, skate video of everybody hurting themselves and have like 6 seconds of the band, like barely anything. So I think he shot some Super 8 shit at Coney Island High at a show we did. And then just went to editing, and then he showed up with that, and I was like, holy crap, man, this is awesome. Perfect. And so then we didn't get the don't like the band, don't like the video response. Suddenly it was, we're putting your video on heavy rotation 4 times a day. Right before Janet Jackson and shit like that. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? But if something like that's gonna happen to you, I'd much rather it happen when you're on a label like AmRep than Atlantic. You know what I'm saying? There's just something better, much better, just for all around for the whole scene to actually do something successful. I mean, it was kind of a cheap shot, I think, because nobody can turn away when you watch all these guys hurting themselves. So. I kind of knew that with the video. Everybody watches Bales. You know what I mean? Like you see somebody biting it, and you can't help but watch. So
yeah, I'm pretty squeamish about that stuff, and I was watching it again recently, and I couldn't look away. I was like, wait, I was like, one more. All right, I'm done. All right, wait, one more. Yeah. All right, I'm done. Does that video do anything for you? Like, does it increase awareness? Like, did it do good things for you?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it did. It was great. Like I said, we were still fucking plowing away at touring 10 months out of the year. So yeah, it was great. It got us a lot of exposure, and later, really kind of got us a tour opening for Slayer in their whatever. They said it was their small club tour, which was like 1,200, 1,400 size rooms sold out, packed to the gills every night. So it really, and then even people who saw us with Slayer were like, holy shit, I've been coming to see your guys ever since. So both that and the Slayer tour really helped.
That's an amazing tour.
Yeah, it was cool. Those guys are really nice. Tom Araya is awesome, man. He would come by because we smoke weed all the time. So he would come by our dressing room at like 3 every day and smoke a joint with us, hang out with us. He was cool. Very nice guy.
How about being on the Tony Hawk soundtrack? That's got to be good, right? Because everybody played that game back in the day.
I played that
game. Even people who didn't play video games.
Yeah. That was another really good one. Sorry, I forgot that one. Sorry, space putting that in there. But that was another super promotional thing. I mean, again, to this day, guys are like, yeah, man, when I was a kid, I played that game and I fucking just listened to your song over and over and over. And I was like, oh my God, and when we play it live, you can tell people know that song, so that was another very good break. I mean, we only got paid $1,500 for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. But whatever,
Was there, I guess there wasn't another deal, right? They probably work it out with the label.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, Relapse was kind of like that one they let us know about. That was one of the first ones. But then there were a couple other songs that they licensed out and didn't even tell us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then like Vinny's kid was playing the game and he's like, hey, Dad, your band's on here. And we were like I think it was called True Crime or something. But it was like, what the fuck? They never even told us, never gave us anything, just kind of used our shit and, so.
Do you go back to them after that you find that out about that?
No, you just sort of learn your lesson and move on.
Yeah. I want to jump ahead to Human Impact.
Oh, cool.
Now,
nice.
This band started around 2019?
Yeah, around there. I mean, it was kind of going on a little bit before that. It really started out Jim Coleman, who I knew Jim before I was really doing Unsane and before he was in Cop Shoot Cop. Me and him were like friends and did drugs together. Really early, super early, like when I first was hanging out in New York. And I had always kind of wanted to play in a band with him. You know, me and him were good friends, and he's a fucking genius. So he came like back in the late 90s when, or mid late, when Cop Shoot Cop broke up. I actually brought up the idea to Vinny and Dave, like, hey, let's have Jim Coleman come and do noise samples with Unsane. They weren't into it. They were like, no, we're staying a 3-piece. There's no way. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then later, cut to 2017, I think, Jim came to a show. I think it was St. Vitus. He came to a show and came up to me after and was like, hey, Chris, I hadn't seen him forever. And he's like, hey, you want to try and write some shit together? So then I finished out that tour, went home. Me and him started sending shit back and forth, just whatever ideas, and working together on just whatever. There's no real band or anything. And then Chris Pravdica and Phil Paleo had been canned from Swans because Michael was getting a new band to back him up or something. So they were available, and Jim was like, yeah, these two guys. I knew Phil, obviously, from way back. But he's like, yeah, these two guys are available if you want to do something with them. So then I came out to New York, and me and Jim had a bunch of ideas together, just sort of on Pro Tools or whatever, Logic or whatever, and came out. We just rehearsed with those guys for maybe a week and then recorded some stuff, and then did another session of that later that was way more developed. But we were kind of just throwing shit around, just trying whatever. So we had a full record second time through. We added a couple from the first session, and I just kind of wrote Ipecac and said, hey, guys, would you have any interest? Greg and Mike and those guys were like, yeah, totally. So they wanted to put it out. So then suddenly it's kind of like a real band. Cut to, we tried to tour a couple times. The pandemic hits. We get totally shut down. Our record comes out the Saturday night before the record release show is the Saturday night. I think it was March 13th or something. The night before New York shuts down completely for the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we just made videos during the pandemic and did what we could to keep the ball rolling, but it lasted way longer than anybody thought it would. And then when things started to open back up, Michael Girard decided he wanted to rehire Phil and Chris. I had been also playing with John and Coop during the pandemic. We were just playing shit just to do something. We were doing all the early Unsane shit, the Charlie and Pete early shit. So I said to those guys, hey, do you want to give it a shot? Because we have a European tour for Human Impact going on, and those guys have now gone back to Swans. So I knew they'd be into it. So we did a tour with them as Human Impact, and that pretty much solidified that stuff. So now John and Cooper in the band. And this record, it's done like a band. You know, the other stuff was really like trying a bunch of different stuff and sending stuff back and forth and stuff. And this really was like written in the same room with me and Coop and John. And then once we had a bunch of songs, then Jim came in and we added even more and we did more and everybody worked together. So it's a lot more focused, I think, than the early shit.
Yeah, I read that it's like more of a band. So is that the difference? You're just in the room together more working on stuff and it's more collaborative?
Oh, totally. And you hang together and everybody has their input and, instead of like taking it song by song and being like, oh, this song, we'll try this riff or try that. And everything seems to me a little disjointed. This has like full album focus,
right.
From beginning to end. It's really, it's almost like one long song to a certain extent, which I'm old school, man. I like making records like that.
Yeah, I've done it both ways, where you're doing it more remote or where you're in the room chopping it up together. And the in-person is where it's at. I think it just retains a certain energy. Exciting things happen that you don't quite expect. And it's just the way, if you can do it.
I agree. Because you can really see where people shine. You know what I mean? And then like if somebody's really tearing it up on this certain riff you're doing, you're like, okay, that's a keeper. And then cut other shit where it's not maybe, I mean, not that they'd be playing badly, but cut the fat. Whereas when you're working remotely, you can and you do, but you don't really know chemistry wise unless everyone's in the same room.
Right. And everybody, we're talking about Human Impact's upcoming second LP. It's called Gone Dark. It's coming out this October on Epicac. There's 2 singles out there right now, Hold On and Destroy to Rebuild. And listen, everybody, since I am a major figure in broadcasting now, I got to hear in advance of the record, and it's fantastic.
Wow,
I mean, if you know Chris, if you know what he does, if you know Human Impact, you're going to love this.
Cool. Thanks, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also read you wanted to capture more of like what your live performances are like. So what do you do to accomplish that?
Well, okay, so live, we would tend to have these sort of segues of sound. We create like another low, almost like soundtrack type shit. And Jim would do stuff. I would do stuff with guitar. We would have some loops going or different shit to sort of maintain the mood, so there's not silence between songs, to kind of alter that period of time between. So on the record, we just made a bunch of them, and then we figure out key-wise which ones we would want where. And so we had on tour, we had been doing this already, so we already kind of had a lot of ideas. So then we just bridged songs together with these interstitials, which we took time to create independently. And then once we put them, like I really put the whole record together as one long song and then figured out where to use those and how to use those.
I like that when is it like that live too? Like where it's kind of just one presentation? Yeah. I like that. I like when bands do that and it's kind of cinematic and there's the interludes. I like that. It's a good atmosphere.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun because everything drops down to this low dynamic, and there's like this sound like churning machine sounds and stuff. It's way more fun for me. I do like saying, hey, thanks you guys or whatever, but much better to just keep the ball rolling. I feel like,
It is. And you can throw in a little talk here and there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Plus, like, you get to pull media from different sources. I don't know if you're like me. I watch and listen to different things from different places. And, maybe you hear an ambient thing and you're like, oh, man, there's nothing I can do with this. I'm in a heavy band. But it's like, wait a minute. This would make a good interlude. Is that
totally? I used to walk around New York with, and have done recently as well, but walk around with mics on my wrists and then a DAT recorder in my coat. So you can't really tell I'm recording, but then I'll record subways, air conditioners, people yelling, different environmental sounds,
I like that.
Which you can throw in there. And it's really cool. When I hear them, like if we're playing a show and I hear that out of the PA, it totally reminds me of, I was standing under the Manhattan Bridge at that point, and you know what I mean? Like it reminds me of the location. So it's really kind of cool. I like using that stuff, like field recordings,
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So as far as lyrical content, especially for the new album, I read that you write about kind of the state of the world and how it's not so great, which I agree with. But you said, I make a conscious effort to try to think of things in terms of we and us and what's happening to us as a whole instead of just my stupid problems. Now, here's a question for you. All right, like early on in bands, right? It was very me. Like, I'm upset that this girl rejected me. I'm upset that this person did something to me. Of
course, that's really typical. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I've gotten older, I just think bigger, and I'm kind of sick of just talking specifically about me all the time. Do you find that as well?
I do, and you're pretty much sharing my sentiment there. And I mean, I think it's good to do it to every once in a while. You have to keep things personal. You can't just be this everyone all the time. You do have to have a certain amount of introspective lyrical content. Let's say you don't want to just be talking about concepts all day. You know what I mean? So you do need a little bit, but I'm with you. I think less is more in that in that context,
Yeah, because okay, no, you're absolutely right. When I read lyrics and it's so abstract, I can't even get a semblance of what's going on. They lose me.
Yeah.
They lose me, right?
I mean, I immediately think of Syd Barrett, which I love, but I understand he's tripping on acid all the time. So,
Yeah. And then, but you're right. Yeah. There's still a lot of me when I write, but I use the word we more often, and I try to open it up more to a broader concept that maybe, different people can relate to. And it sounds like that's what you're doing too.
Yeah. Yep. To a certain extent. Also, good to talk about things and ideas. You know what I mean? Also, you can broaden your spectrum from the Hank Williams Sr. sadness. It's not all just me.
How do you feel about the state of the world right now?
I mean, in my insular, out in Northern California is a fucking awesome place. Very cool people and very independent thinking. Let's say that. But it's hard to believe some of the bullshit. It's really, it seems like America's on the cusp of an authoritarian, revolution, takeover. And I pray to God not, but who knows? And hard to believe that countries like Russia, that there are actually wars going on in the context they are, with religion and just so much crap. I guess it's the same old shit, really, in terms of the world. But at the same time, I'm a little surprised. I thought man would smarten up over time, but can't have it all.
I feel like the way things are now, it used to be more understated and kind of hidden how messed up things were and how much people were taken advantage of. And I feel like it's way more in your face now. And whereas it was like, all right, we're going to throw them a bone. Now we're not even getting the bone thrown to us. It's just like, it's like, you're going to work, you're not going to get shit, and you're not going to say a word about it, and you're going to keep voting for us. And it kind of, so I don't know if this is the healthiest approach, but I'm doing it anyway. I don't really read the news at all. I don't care about election cycles. I'm just, working makes me happy. Creating makes me happy. So I bury my head in that. I'm there as much as I can be for friends and family. There are certain things I do to stay spiritually fit and give back to others, right? I'm not like out in the streets marching or collecting signatures for a petition, but there's other things I'm doing that are helping people. So it's like, I don't know, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I know, that's cool. I can, I can empathize with that one. I do feel like it's good to say something. I feel like it's good to, if you give me a record to make, I'm going to say something. But but at the same time, it's hard to know what's real, what's not, what's fucking, the way things are. Who even knows? I don't even, in where I live and in my world, I'm with you. Better to be supportive, be a good person, do what you can to help each other out. I'm not really, it's like the media is just trying to scare the shit out of everybody all the time. So who knows,
Right.
It's just so sensationalist,
I started going down a YouTube wormhole, and then I got into this bad section of videos. It was like, this meteor is going to hit the Earth in 2147. And it was just a string of like, the world is going to end videos. And I started clicking a few, and then I was like, you know what? Let's back out of this, because this is not going to be healthy for me.
Yeah, totally. I know. I mean, mental health, I guess, is an issue for a lot of people. I mean, I don't really, as far as I know, I don't have any problems.
But, you sound like you got a good head on your shoulders to me.
Well, thanks, Keith.
Yes. When did you first hook up with Ipecac? Was that back in 2007-ish for Viz Queen?
Yes, it was. Was that 2007 when that came out?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Unless the internet's wrong.
No, I'd have to look it up. But anyway, you're probably right. Yeah, we were playing some festival. I think it was the Dour Festival in Belgium, and I know Buzz Osborne from Melvin's. So me and Dave, whenever we were hanging out with Buzz, Tomahawk was playing. Then we were all just kind of, me and Buzz and Dave and Mike Patton and a couple other guys were all just sitting at the same table back in the, hospitality area for the festival. And Mike just kind of turned to me and said, "Hey, Chris, I got this label and I'd love to put out an Unsane record if I can." And I'd be like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So that was it. It was just sort of like hanging out backstage at some festival, and he just asked if we would do one. So we did one, and I realized it's a great label to work with, man. They're super supportive, super great guys, very nice. Now they're doing bands like Jesus Lizard, Jesus Lizard, Melvins, and it's moved into really, not that it wasn't before, but it's really moved into a place for bands like us.
Yeah. It's got, I think, I knew them before, but I see them even more now, and I think it's got like even more of an identity, if you will.
Yeah.
Like there's a certain sound that I associate with the label.
Well, yeah, there you go.
You being one of them. Like when I was listening to Unsane again, and then I thought of the Melvins because I had Buzz on the show recently. You've toured with them, right?
Yeah.
He was great band.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we actually did a tour with them, and Vinny, our drummer, got hurt in Mexico and all kinds of problems, but he couldn't make it. So he canceled like 2 days before we were supposed to go to LA to meet them and start the tour. Dave had been tour managing Melvins for a while at one point. So he just called Buzz and Dale and Cody, who was playing. They had 2 drummers at the time. And all those guys were like, "Yeah, come on, you and Chris, Chris and Dave will come out and do it. And Dale will play 6 songs. Cody will play 6 songs. And then we'll do 2 with 2 drummers." So we did a whole Melvins Unsane tour with us using the Melvins drummers.
Good thing they had 2, right?
Yeah, I know. No shit. Well, I mean, Dale could have definitely learned, 14 songs in 2 days, I would say. But it made it really fun. It was really fun to play with both those guys. Totally amazing drummers,
That's really cool. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, did they learn those songs, or how do they learn those songs so quick? I guess if you're just a master at what you're doing, like they are, that you can just do it.
Yeah, they listened to them before, and then we showed up a couple days beforehand and just ran through them for 2 days, and then from there they it's 6 each, and then 2 together. So they had listened to them a bunch, the day or 2 before we got there. Yeah, I don't know, but they got it. They had it down. It worked.
Amazing. So is Human Impact going to be getting out on the road a lot right now? The pandemic is over. Well, okay. Whenever I say that, people say, no, it's still going on, which is true. People are still getting, and people are still dying.
I just had it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know I had it.
Really?
Yeah. I thought I had allergies. And then my girlfriend got sick as a dog. And she tested, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I got it." And then I tested, and it was fading. I barely still had it, so I'd had it for like a week and not even known. Sorry.
I'm jealous. I want that version of it where you don't even really know you have it, because both times I got it, I knew.
Oh wow. No, I've had it like 5 times now.
5?
Yeah. Yes. Welcome to touring life.
Oh right. Yeah.
I mean, every day is a super spreader. Come on.
Yeah. You are out there collecting everybody's germs all the time.
All the time.
So what's coming up for Human Impact? Now we know we've got the record coming up in October. Are we going to be doing a lot of touring? Is there anything we can announce?
Oh, no, not just yet. Because John just had a baby. John and his girl just had a baby. And our bass player Cooper is going to have a baby in January. So we're kind of giving the guys a little time with their infants. But then maybe we're hoping, next spring we'll be able to get out. So we'll see. I mean, obviously we want to get out, but we might we'll see. Who knows? There's a few things in the works. There might be like a series of shows around tech, like Dallas, Austin, Houston, Texas shit, just because Coop's down there. And then maybe like a Northeast thing, the usual sort of Boston, Philly, New York stuff. And then also possibly another West Coast thing of like 3 or 4 shows. Because you could pull the guys away from their kid for, 4 or 5, for a week, and get them back in good health, So we're going to give it a shot. But But yeah, nothing really firmly, nothing going on just yet. We're kind of waiting to see how the record does.
Ah, okay. Well, listen, it's going to do good. It has to. Because, again, everybody, I have heard it, and you want to hear it too, trust me. When you got attacked in Vienna, was that in Vienna?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that? Was it just a random guys attacked you? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I didn't really understand it at the time. I just came out of a club and was walking. There's like this park behind the club. There's like hedges on either side of the sidewalk. And a guy goes, "Hey," and I turned and I went, "What?" And then somebody came up behind me and hit me with like a brick in the back of the head. And as I was falling to the ground, I see 4 or 5 guys coming out of the bushes who just kicked me in the head and body until they assumed I was dead or whatever. So I had internal bleeding. My lip was ripped down into my neck. One eyed sealed shut, really beaten really badly. But long story short, a Marine who worked in the hospital that I was in came to me once I was conscious and back to relatively, lucid, normal state, and told me that him and his friends in the military had issues in that exact spot, like coming out of that club. One of their friends had been running ahead of them, and guys came out of the bushes, like with me. And then one of the guys who was behind him, one of the Marine guys, went back in the club somehow. I don't know how he fucking did this, but he found a hammer and went out there and like started bludgeoning, getting the guys off the first Marine. So
Oh my God.
I was wearing like fatigues and a white t-shirt and a Yankees hat. I guess I look military. So the Marine guy seems to told me that, because to me, it just seemed like being struck by lightning. I was like, what the fuck? How does that happen? But apparently it's kind of this has been an ongoing thing within like a 6-month period before that happened to me.
Were they attack military people?
Yeah. It was something with like guys who were stationed there and these local Eastern European thugs or something,
Ugh. How long were you in the hospital for?
Till they took this giant drainage tube out of my gut. It was about almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so not that long. And then but I was stapled shut. I couldn't really walk or anything when I left. I just wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. I was in a terminal ward, so I had multiple guys in the bed next to me die while I'm lying there. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there, back to New York, where I just holed up and bought pirated DVDs, for weeks. And then I guess I had got my staples out, and then we went on tour for 10 months. The day after I got my staples out, so I had this like Velcro girdle kind of thing to hold my gut together when we played. And there was like blood coming out of it every night from singing. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Didn't you end up taking a break after that for a while?
Yeah, we did. I just had enough we took hiatus, as they say, it was a couple of years.
And is that when you moved out to California?
Yeah, that's moved out San Francisco, this place with my brother. Yeah.
Why did you move out there?
I don't know. I just needed some peace and quiet, I guess.
Yeah.
I just get out of New York. New York was also really changing. And I had been on tour so much that and a lot of my friends had either been on tour or left New York, and it was kind of getting to the point where I was like, I just kind of want to get somewhere that's quiet and take it easy. It was things got incredibly hectic there for a while.
Yeah, they still are. But probably not as much so in the 90s though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like for me, having all your internal organs rearranged is a very strange feeling.
Yeah, that'll reprioritize things for sure. Because I've been beaten up, jumped before, and when when I got jumped, it was very sudden. Like I'm walking by these guys, and you get a bad feeling, and I'm like, it's fine. And then all of a sudden, you're on the ground, and it's like, oh,
yeah.
But for like a week after that, I was really paranoid. Like I would walk down the street, and I would look everyone in the eyes, like really intensely. It was like I was waiting for it to happen again. Did you have any like after effects?
No, not really. Because I went from like terminal ward to sealed up in my apartment for a couple of weeks to on tour, and on tour it was like hang out in the van, go to play, do sound check, play the show, hang out in the backstage room, lie down as much as you can, and then back to the hotel as soon as possible after the show. So, because it hurt, man. I was in pain pretty constantly.
So, Unsane did some touring last year in Europe, right?
Yeah, we did.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Touring Europe has to be like the best, right? Because there are bands that will just tour Europe and not even hear so much.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's true. It depends on the band, I think.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to go out and play the early songs. We had Todd had set me up with virtual labels, so we started this label Lamb Unlimited for reissue stuff. So we had reissued that first record, and I just really wanted to get out there and play those songs. And John he fucking learned them, like learned what Charlie did, which is awesome. And could do it fluidly, So yeah, so for me, it was kind of like, because when I did those songs with Pete and Charlie, we were just playing shithole after shithole after shithole, living in the van together. Like I told you, that shitty ass Chevy van. So it was really cool to go out and play the early shit to a lot of people, and play big shows without, the later stuff. We did a couple of the later songs. Like, of course, you're going to do Scrape.
Yeah. When you do that, does that bring back a lot of memories? I find that as I get older, I don't know, there's big periods of time I don't remember, but if I go back to my old hometown or see something I haven't seen in a while, it'll bring back all this stuff that I forgot about, and it's a pretty cool feeling.
It is. Feels really good. And because the lyrics to all that early shit are really about kind of my neighborhood and my shitty cab driving job or things that have happened to me during, you know what I mean? Just kind of this whole outlook of life at that time. So to me, it felt really good to, be older and play those songs. It was fun as hell, man.
So let's remind everybody about what we've got coming up. Human Impact, Gone Dark. That's out October 4th on Epicac Recordings. We've got 2 singles out there now, Hold On and Destroy to Rebuild. So we want everyone to get this record, right, Chris?
Yeah, of course. To me, it's, I'm sure a bunch of schmucks say this, but I really, like I said to Jim when we wrapped it up before we even sent it in or anything, this is I think it's one of the best things I've ever done, easily. So, if you want to check it out, do.
I agree with you. Yes. And what else do we have coming up? Anything Unsane happening? Anything happening with other bands? Let the people know.
Oh, me and Jim are doing, let me look at this thing. Me and Jim are doing this film thing with his wife, Beth B, in Berlin. We're doing it in a few weeks on August 15th. It's called Now Wave, I think. Hold on, let me look at this thing. Yeah, Now Wave, Beth B, Glowing. It's called The Glowing. It's like she's a super underground famous filmmaker. Awesome woman, super nice. But we're doing opening night. Me and Jim are doing like ambient noise performance on August 15th, and then the show runs all the way until the 25th, I think, of August, in a place called Silent Green in Berlin. That is an old crematorium that's been turned into a performance, stronghold. They have multiple stages and all kinds of stuff. So
nice. You said that's in Berlin?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That sounds interesting. I like that.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, like I told you before, I did film and stuff. So, and Jim had done film work as well. So I've always liked I did a soundtrack for a French horror movie and stuff at one point. I really like doing soundtrack work. So this is kind of more in that vein. I'm doing strings, Jim doing samples and some keyboard stuff, and we've been sending shit back and forth. Me and him have kind of done shit like this before. The first time actually was that record release show for Human Impact I think it was March 13th. I can't remember exactly, March 13th or 14th, 15th maybe. But so the opening acts all canceled because everybody was getting sick and COVID was hitting hard. So we were left to play on our own. And they said they were live streaming it, so it would be worthwhile. So me and Jim did like 25 minutes of this kind of thing before we played. So then when Beth got this whole, film show, there's a lot of performances. Hold on, let me look at this thing. I know Lydia's doing stuff. Lydia Lunch is doing stuff. There's a lot of different shit. Okay, here we go. The exhibition is Thursday the 15th through the 23rd. So a live event with film performance and music, live performances by Nick Flynn, Robert Oliver, Little Annie, Vincent Dubois, music. But Jim Coleman's doing a lot of different shit with this. He's sort of in collaboration with his wife, Beth. There's a thing with me and him. There's a thing by this woman, No Anger. So she does like dance performance, all kinds of weird shit. Then Jim's doing a thing with This Wilderness with Robbie, this guy Robbie that we know, really cool. It's another band Jim has. And then there's multiple screenings. The Dominatrix Sleeps Tonight. It's all a lot of Beth's really alt crazy cool stuff. And then I guess the 16th, Lydia Lunch, The War Is Never Over, spoken word performance by Lydia Lunch. Dust and Shadows, introduction by Beth B. The Women's Short Film Program. It's a lot of film stuff with live performances dispersed throughout.
Okay, so you're going to actually be in Berlin?
Yeah. I leave Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And doing soundtrack work like that must be so awesome, right? Because, well, you're into film. I'm into film too. And like, I don't know, just little projects I've done, I'll like pair video with music. And to me, it's one of the most fulfilling things. How do you like it?
Yeah. It's really, I love using music to evoke a feeling.
Yes.
You can use a visual image in that, and the music in that context. If you really get it dialed in perfectly, you can really express something with visual and sound that is hard to achieve any other way.
I like that. Chris, I appreciate everything you do. I'm looking forward to everybody else hearing Gone Dark. And listen, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Keith. Awesome to talk to you. Very nice.
And there you have it. Chris Spencer. What a great person, and what a great conversation. A very storied life that Chris has led, and I was very happy to hear all about it. Living in New York City in the late 80s and early 90s, that in and of itself is a trip. And just hearing about the history of Unsane, that was really interesting. I learned a lot about them. Kind of crazy that bands like that could have a major label presence in the 90s, right? I miss that. I miss when there was just a lot more interesting guitar-driven music out there in the mainstream world. But Unsane has an incredible history and Human Impact. I'm really enjoying Human Impact as well. I hope everybody checks out Gone Dark. Again, it's out this October on Ipecac Recordings. So awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? I am exhausted. I am tired. There's a lot going on. All right, here's what's going on. The past 2 or 3 weeks at work have been incredibly busy. My day job, right? I'm talking like get up in the morning and work from 7 a.m. straight until 5 p.m. Stop that. Do a podcast interview. Stop that. Start editing the podcast. And then somehow weaving in there band practice on top of everything. It's been a grind. I've been working all week. I've been working all weekend. But it's all going to be over next week. The work project will be done. The podcast grind will be on hold for a minute. And my new band will be launched. Keep an eye out for that. Friday, August 23rd. The first single will be out. The announcement will be out. And it's going to be the beginning and end of a lot of things, which I need because I've been working all week. I've been working all weekend. There's been no break. I'm exhausted. But next week, we will see the results of a lot of hard work. So I'm excited, very excited about that. And don't forget, the This Day Forward reunion shows are this weekend, and I am playing the Bowery Ballroom date. Memory Entry will be opening, along with On the Might of Princes and Taken, and This Day Forward headlining. I'm going to the Saturday show in Philly as well, so if you're there, I'll see you there. And then we, Memory Entry, are playing the excellent show Sunday. So I'm looking really forward to that and looking really forward to seeing all those bands. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. So let's check in with the New Scene Community Hour. All right, I heard from Brad, who also went to the And So I Watch You From Afar and Caspian show. And he said, And So I Watch You From Afar and Caspian were incredible and fucking loud as hell. Thank God for hearing protection. Caspian is heavy in the rotation these days, and have finally seen one of my all-time favorites after 13 years. Felt amazing. What a show. He also mentioned the bass V in this email. He said Sam from Full of Hell brought it up on the show, and I got excited. I bought myself one for my birthday in 2021. Everything I played sounded heavy as hell. An awesome instrument. Yeah, it was great hearing about the bass V from a couple people. And because like I mentioned when I was talking to Sam, I saw Sergio playing what looked like a guitar live, Sergio from Quicksand, but he was playing bass. So I was like, what is this thing? And now I know, the bass V. Good to hear from you, Brad. This next person I want to keep anonymous, but they said, Keith, just want to tell you how much I love the show. You are such a great host. The interview you did with Aaron Turner was one of my favorites. Also, just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you talking about your struggles with mental health and addiction so openly. You've inspired me to attend my first 12-step meeting today and get on the path. So to that person, I say, congrats, awesome stuff. I hope it works out. And best of luck to you. And yeah, on the mental health tip, I've come to some realizations lately. I deal with depression sometimes. It comes out of nowhere, and it's not always caused by something specifically, but I was afraid it was going to happen again this summer because it happened last summer around this time. For the whole month of August, I was just miserable, and it was hard to work, hard to get out of bed. But I feel okay right now, and I'm hoping it stays that way. But I did get hit with depression in late March and most of April, and when I'm like that, it's just hard to function. And look, I stay centered by working constantly. I have bad social anxiety too. I'm coming to terms with that. I drank and got high for a long time to deal with these feelings of being uncomfortable. And when I stopped drinking and getting high, I had to kind of learn how to live again. And the way I've coped in recent years is to just work constantly. I hang out, but it's in short bursts, and I don't typically stay over anyone's house. I don't typically let anyone stay over here. I don't go on long vacations. I'm not on long trips. And even when I travel with a band, it's hard. It's hard because I don't have that cushion anymore. I don't have that alcohol and drug cushion that would make me want to be out for a long time, make it tolerable to be out for a long time. So I'm still figuring it out. And if sharing these things helps other people, then that's a bonus. And I know it does because I've had people write me and say that, they're trying 12-step meetings, or they're trying to cut down on drinking, or they're trying to cut down on smoking weed. So if anything I'm saying can help somebody else, awesome. And look, if you're struggling with drugs or alcohol and you've tried everything else in the world to stop and you can't, I highly recommend giving 12-step a shot. I still do it, and it's worked wonders for me. All right, so we have a new Apple Podcast review. Here we go, from Blued Dude. He says, the best podcast in the scene, 5 stars. Keith gets the guests we've always wanted to hear from and asks the questions most don't have the gall to ask. We'll listen until he decides to call it quits. Thank you, Blued Dude. And listen, we need a lot of Apple Podcast reviews. So if you have an iPhone, please open your iPhone, rate the show 5 stars. If you haven't, take your wife or your husband or your partner's phone and go into the podcast app and hit the 5-star button for the New Scene. We got to get to 300. We have to do it. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we have to do it. And we have to do it together. Also, in breaking news, it looks like, sadly, St. Vitus will not be opening back up. St. Vitus, the legendary bar and venue in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I just saw that one of the owners, Frank, posted what looked like a memorial on Instagram, and Chris Enriquez, who we know, posted a remembrance, and that quickly got picked up by Metal Injection, who wrote an article about it. So it looks like the venue will not be opening back up, and I, for one, am really going to miss it. I saw so many great shows there, had so many good times there over the years. Really wish I could have played there while it was still open. But listen, there's going to be plenty of other shows to play, and I'm going to miss it. Rest in peace, St. Vitus, and I hope that the guys end up opening another venue or something, because, I mean, look what they've done for music in New York City and around the entire world. So that is it. That is it for this week. This is going to be my last check-in for the month, but I'll be back in September. And look, there are some incredible interviews coming up in September. So strap in, and I'll see you then.